discussion and no final action shall take place.
I really appreciate y'all's thoughtfulness on this, because there really are no action items of import, and given the spread of the COVID-19, I think it was very wise to have this meeting virtually. Obviously, I'd much prefer to be together, but only if it's safe and healthy. Let us now take a moment for a time of reflection. Thank you. Jay, are there any introductions we need to make?
I don't think there are. I think we are good.
Normally we would adopt the agenda as an action item. Clearly, being no quorum, we can't do that. But has anybody got any issues or questions they want to raise about the agenda, or should we just proceed? I'll take that as a let's proceed. Safety briefing in moment. James Stanson.
Thank you, Chair Baker and members of the board. Good morning. My name is James Stanson, and I'm Director of Energy Production for JEA. My team is responsible for generating electricity in a safe, efficient, and environmentally responsible manner. Before we have our safety moment, let's take a minute to go over a safety brief for this event. Recognizing that most of us are participating virtually, please take a moment to recall where to go in the event of an emergency, and please remember to call 911 if you are in need of emergency assistance. For those few that are working in person on T19, remember to use the stairwell and not the elevator during an emergency evacuation, and please assemble at the First Baptist Church parking lot located at the corner of Ashley and Main. Always be cognizant of the potential for trip hazards in your respective work areas, and continue to follow our COVID prevention protocols. And lastly, please remember to keep your cell phones on silent and your laptops on mute when not actively speaking during today's board meeting. How do we stay focused and overcome complacency? On December 28th, we wrapped up a major turbine generator inspection at Northside Generating Station on our Unit 3. The outage involved work being performed by a majority of all of the Northside Generating Station employees, as well as over 200 contractors. In total, the outage lasted 61 days and nights at a cost of roughly $3 million. The work required over 80 unique lockout-tagout clearances, and there were on average 85 clearance holders sign on to one or more clearances at any given time during this outage. With the nature of all the work being performed, as well as the number of folks involved with performing different tasks, coordinating all this work was very essential, proper coordination. It was critical that proper job safety briefings be performed to ensure that all potential hazards be identified and to communicate what everyone was doing so that everyone was aware of how their work would affect each other's work. All the work was completed, and I'm happy to report without incident. We did have 2 minor near misses, which were thoroughly analyzed afterwards. Oftentimes, after an outage of this scope is completed, it would be natural for employees to let their guard down. Many of them had worked extended long hours, and many of the hours through the night, weekends, and holidays. The management, recognizing that this was critical to ensure that the team remained in the moment and stayed focused on the routine tasks from day to day following the outage. This is why we changed up a number of the folks' normal routines and increased our discussions regarding staying focused and in the moment when performing their work. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think that's the best safety report we've had, and that's real life business for JEA, and thank you so much. Is Council Member Michael Boylan with us?
He is on the line.
Mike, do you have any comments you would like to make? You might be on mute.
Chair Baker, this is Landon. They are not connected via audio. They're only watching the WebEx.
Okay. Well, Michael, if you do have any comments you want to make, please enter through the chat or any other way you would like. We would love to hear from you.
Chair Baker, this is slightly out of order because I could cover this in the CEO report, but real quickly, I'll tell you that through conversations with Councilman Boland, one of the issues that he was going to talk to you all about is the effort that we've made with the 301 Partners, which was a development on the west side of town. And he was involved with some of the introductory discussions after the council and LUZ made the decision that they made, and appreciate the time and effort that he put into that. I think we're looking forward to finalizing the agreement with that group and continuing to work with developers and council to protect the service territory and area that we've got. And so we appreciate the time and effort that he and other council members put into this effort.
Thank you, Jay. Any questions of Jay about that? Okay, Landon, do we have any comments from the public?
I'm going to go ahead and read through the script to see if we have any virtually, and I'll go ahead and do that now. Once again, my name is Landon Todd, and for those that are new to the WebEx technology, I'm going to give a brief overview of the controls for public comments today. Now, if you're joining us via the desktop interface or a smart device, such as a smartphone or a tablet, you can move around your screen and see a series of buttons at the bottom. Now, the very first one that you may notice looks like an icon of a microphone. Now, it's red and it should be red. It means you are muted right now and will be on mute for the majority of this meeting unless you are recognized to speak. Now, if you are recognized to speak or asked to provide comments, you will click on that button and it will turn green. This will mean you are unmuted and people can hear you. Now, I do ask that you use this option to keep yourself on mute when you're not speaking. This will allow us to reduce the amount of background noise today and have the most productive meeting possible. Now, located on the right side of your screen, you will find an icon that looks like a person labeled participants. Now, this option will allow you to see a long list of individuals who have joined today's meeting. Now, at the top of this list, your name will be visible, and to the right of that, you'll notice a gray icon that looks like a hand. If you click on it, it will turn blue, letting me know that you like to be recognized to speak for comment. Now, for those that may have called in directly, and I see 2 or 3 people that have, there are 2 additional ways that you can notify me that you would like to provide comments. The first is by pressing *3 on your telephone, which will activate and raise your hand, and then you may press *6 to unmute your line. Now, if you unmute your line, please state your first and last name so that everyone may hear who is speaking before providing your comment. Now, the other option is we do have the comment section, our chat feature also enabled. If your audio is not working, you may go ahead and type your public comments into that area as well. Now, as we go through the meeting, I am the moderator and have the capability to make sure everyone is muted during today's session, but I'll only do that to ensure this meeting runs smoothly. With that, I am going to go ahead and now look for public comments. I do have a raised hand by Mark Zimmerman. Mark, you may go ahead and unmute your line, and you may proceed with public comments.
My name is Mark Zimmerman. Thank you all for having the meeting today. I am the energy manager of Steel, Florida. It's a facility owned by Commercial Metals. The facility is the largest recycler in the state of Florida, and also probably the largest single site customer that JEA has. And the question I have for the board is, since the decision to move to a monthly adjustment of the fuel costs, the price of natural gas has dropped substantially from the forecast that you all saw back in October. And so the question that we have is, will there be a downward adjustment, and when will it occur? Thank you.
Jay, can you respond to that?
I will. Typically, we do not, but I think this one is important. And Mark, thank you for being here and asking the question, and for agreeing to participate on our integrated resource plan advisory committee. The price of natural gas did go up, and we had projected that the fuel cost was going to continue to rise for a period of time, and it does look like, because of the combination of the hedging that we did and the market coming back down, that in March we should see a decrease, and we can get you the charts and the graphs that we have on this, Mark, and let you see what what it looks like. I'll remind the board that if we had not done this, the fuel charge would have been bigger for a period of time than it ended up being. We've been able to mitigate it, and it's smaller than it would have been. But we'll get in touch with you and have further conversations, Mark. So thank you for your comment. We see it declining in March, and then staying relatively flat after that. Thank
Landon,
you.
are there others?
I do not see any other raised hands at this time or comments. However, I would like to recognize that Michael Bolin has joined via audio. In the event that they need to go ahead and unmute their line via audio, that command is *6 if they like to be recognized to speak.
Jay, is it appropriate for me to speak at this point?
I think it is. Sorry, we had some technical issues.
I had some logging on issues on my back, so I apologize. And I appreciated your comments. I did catch the tail end of your comments regarding my involvement in the conversations with the folks at 301 Village. I just wanted to make a comment as it relates to that to Mr. Chair, if I might, about the management team having to sit in on that meeting and negotiations with the developers there. The impact of this development is going to be significant, not only to the community, but particularly to JEA, with 15,000 new potential customers, residential customers, as well as a number of other activities and businesses that are going to be in that area. So I wanted to commend their diligence and the effort. And I know it's not quite a done deal yet, but the city council was actually put into somewhat of a difficult but a good position at the same time, in the fact that we were asked to approve both the rezoning and the acceptance of the conceptual the master plan concept, and that's why it came before the council before the negotiations with the JEA was not complete. And I think being in the room helped a little bit in the context of putting a hand on the back of both parties to get to a point where I think we're in a good path for a good partnership in the development of that property. I want to commend Jay and the staff for their professionalism in that meeting and their ability to work through the difficult challenges that laid ahead for them. And Mr. Chair, if I might, I also, in my role as the liaison, I think it's incumbent upon me to bring back to this body any communications or interactions that the council has as it relates to JEA. And at our finance committee meeting last week, which I sit on, the council auditor reported on the year-end quarterly statements for the various independent agencies. And I'd like to share with you a couple of comments that she made as related to JEA in particular. And this is, and I quote, JEA's year-end report indicated that all three utility systems, electric, wastewater, and district chilled water, district energy, had balanced budgets for FY 2021 despite revenue shortfalls and increases in fuel expenses. This is an indication of JEA's commitment to a strong oversight over its financial operations. She went on to talk a little bit about the fuel stabilization reserve and how that was going to be exhausted, which will, and as I understand it, has been exhausted or nearly exhausted by the end of the calendar year. But it does create greater transparency in terms of the customers, and I think that was appreciated by all of us. Well, I just wanted to share those couple of comments in relationship to that statement or report by the council auditor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate your help on the 301 partners issue. I agree. I think everybody did a wonderful job of coming together and reaching a fair conclusion. And I thank Jay especially for his work as well as the council. Landon, do we have any other comments?
No, sir, not at this time, and we have not received any via email as well. I'll go ahead and hand it back over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, and let's turn to Jay's CEO report, please.
Thank you, Chair Baker, and happy New Year. I don't know whether we should call this Back to the Future or Groundhog Day, but I do appreciate your willingness to meet virtually again, because we do believe it's the safest option, and safety is one of our core values. And welcome to the first JEA Board of Directors meeting for 2022. I realize that there are fans of both teams, but Dr. Faison, thank you for being here after a long night. I think that you might have been happier with the outcome of that game last night. So.
Go Dogs. My voice is barely audible. I've been screaming so much.
So
Bobby sent a lot of tuition that way too, and who isn't excited about the game last night? That was awesome.
Well, I hope that you all had a safe and restful holiday season, and as we begin the new year, I want to thank you, the board, and the whole JEA team in advance for the dedication, and to the board for the guidance through another year. I think it's important that you all are invested as you are to help support our community. And to all the folks that worked all during the holidays to keep everything going, and that is, we typically think of the lights and the water and the wastewater, but we also had payroll in the middle of the holidays. We have bills being paid all the way through, and so JEA operations, they don't stop at 5 o'clock. They go around the clock for us to provide quality, reliable services to our customers. So it takes all of us to do that job well, and each of us has a critical role to play to be able to improve lives of the people of Northeast Florida. I'd also like to extend a special appreciation to about 16 of our folks that from water and wastewater crew and the fleet support staff that went to provide mutual aid on December 15th to the town of Chipley, about 250 miles away, where many homes and State Road 77 were inundated with floodwaters. Florida Division of Emergency Management reached out to us because of our efforts that we had with resiliency and flooding. We had a lot of pumps that they could use. It's another one of the many qualities that makes our team an unbeatable team. And while some of the work that we did was not in the core utility business, it certainly was core to our vision of improving lives. And along the lines of mission, vision, and values, we are going to stay focused on everything that we do. This time of year, people start making new goals, and we've started looking at the same thing, except our focus remains unchanged. We're going to remain focused on the mission of improving lives and building community. We're also going to do that while we keep the eyes on being the best utility in the nation for our employees and for our customers. We're going to do that through the lens of these core values that we continue to talk about: safety, respect, integrity, always. This is part of the strategic focus areas of developing an unbeatable team, delivering business excellence, and earning customer loyalty. And we need to be willing to do some things differently. We can't reach our vision of being the best utility in the nation by operating on past performance, and we're not going to settle on being good enough. So this coming year, we'll continue to focus on the culture. Culture includes our values, our mindsets, our attitudes, actions, and behaviors, our leadership engagement and experiences. I'm proud of how far we've come in just 1 year, but understand that improving lives and building communities is going to begin with us, and each team member will need to continue to work on that. And speaking of team members, I think it's appropriate for us to recognize some of the team members this month. We never are able to recognize everyone that's done outstanding work in a board meeting, but I think I want to be sure that you all are aware that Wayne Young, who's one of our vice presidents in environmental services, I want to congratulate him for his service on the Florida State College at Jacksonville. He's been on the FSCJ board since 2018 and recognize that he has recently been named vice chair. So thank you, Wayne, for your commitment to JEA, to Northeast Florida, and to this vital institution. Also celebrate the work that some of you may have heard of, the Line Workers Rodeo. There's a similar set of work that's done on the water and wastewater side, and we had teams from water, wastewater reuse, delivery and collection, and customer field and meter services that participated in the Florida American Waterworks Association Fall Conference Operator Competitions. It's a great opportunity, really focused on safety and efficiency, to show off the skills they use every day. And I'm excited to report that our team members placed first in both the event called Hydrant Hysteria and the water tapping competitions, as well as third and fifth place in Meter Madness competition. JEA will move on to represent Florida in the American Waterworks Association conference in San Antonio in June. We are focused on improving lives, building community beyond the work that we do every day. We also have volunteers in the community, and last fiscal year, over 800 team members and employees volunteered for over 3,600 hours to focus on this part of the community. We had 128 certified ambassadors that spent over 1,100 hours teaching our customers about conservation, safety, and our available products and services. It's another way that we focus on what we do every day. We spend a lot of time focused on safety, and one of the ways that we do that, although we are working only a certain number of hours on the job, it's one of the things that we can measure is the safety on the job. We've recently achieved 1 million hours worked without an OSHA-defined lost time injury, and we celebrate that. But we also embrace the idea that preventative safety is a way of life, both at and away from work. So more of our time is spent away from work, and I want to encourage us to remain safe, both where we are on the job and at home. We'll track the numbers because the numbers help us see whether we're doing what we need to do, but it's really about making good decisions about each other. It is courtesy and respect, I think. One of the other areas you've heard us talk about is resiliency. Resiliency beyond hurricanes was one of the initiatives that we started last year. And while we've had a mild winter so far, we always want to be prepared for weather emergencies that our community may face. On the electric side, we've reviewed the levels of backup fuel for natural gas turbines and at Northside Unit 3. We've increased the inventory level of oil from 2 to 3 days to approximately 5 days in the event that a cold weather event like the one last February in Texas occurs. While we've topped off the diesel tanks that might be needed for a limited natural gas supply, we've also hedged more natural gas this year than in years past to reduce the risk of natural gas spikes and volatility. On the water side, we purchased additional pumps and generators to provide reliability and redundancy to critical lift stations. To prepare for winter, we've winterized our equipment and added flexibility and additional vendors to our operations in case of supply chain issues. But resiliency beyond hurricanes, resiliency beyond cold weather, resiliency beyond operations, and while that needs to be a focus, we also have to focus on our culture to provide resiliency. Focusing on our workforce, from discussions around diversity, equity, inclusion, to providing team discussions about resiliency, is another piece of this. So this week there was a story on 60 Minutes that indicated employees across the nation are asking for more autonomy and flexibility in a way that we've never seen before. It's one of the reasons our work from wherever you are best policy will benefit us. We're already seeing strong candidates come to work for us because we are open to being flexible. But being flexible is different than we've ever done things before, and so it will take some effort on our part. Part of that effort will be an employee engagement survey that we'll be asking team members to complete in the coming months, and I want them to be comfortable and willing to answer those questions so that it will make us better and make us the best place to work so that we can be the best utility in the nation. As for today's presentations, David Emanuel is going to cover a little bit more on diversity, equity, inclusion. That is an update from the last time he spoke to you about it in August. Diversity, equity, inclusion is at the heart of our values. We not only want to mirror the diversity of our community, but we want JEA to lead and be an advocate for a better shared future for Jacksonville. So David's going to share with you what we said we would do, what we've done, and what some of our next steps are. Sheila Presley is going to provide an update on our residential and business customer satisfaction surveys. While we share the JD Power scores, customer sat is not really about quartile rankings. That is like safety measure. It is more important that we are doing the right things for our customers. We can help our small and large business customers and our residential customers thrive. We also can work with quality vendors and subcontractors to ensure that we're providing top-notch service, teaching and educating our customers through local events. We will continue to do that to improve some of those numbers, but mostly to improve lives. At the November board meeting, Renetta Marshall provided a high-level review of the Integrated Resource Plan. This plan is not something we want to create in a vacuum. And today you'll get an update from Laura Shepis, Chief External Affairs Officer, focusing on the upcoming Stakeholder Advisory Committee meeting and how they will work with us to help develop the IRP. This is a plan that will provide direction for our generation portfolio and transmission for the next 20 to 30 years. We're already making good decisions related to that. We stopped using plant shear on December 31st, and that helped reduce our carbon dioxide emissions on an annual basis by about 1.3 million tons, which is the equivalent of just over 255,000 cars, the emission that cars make in a year. We'll also provide you a short update on Plant Vogel, and as foreshadowing, it is not a significant change from the update that we gave you last month. Thank you so much for the opportunity for me to be here to help represent all of the people, the 2,000 employees at JEA, to represent you. Happy New Year one more time. I continue to be proud to be a part of this team. And with that, I will answer any questions you might have.
Questions of Jay? Hearing none, we'll move on to the JEA performance update. Blake Eisner?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Thank you, Chair Baker, and good morning, Board of Directors. Yes, my name is Blake Eisner. I'm the Director of Learning and Development here at JEA, and I have the pleasure of providing you a metrics update. This update includes data through November 30th, which means that we really only have 2 data points at this point for the year-to-date numbers, that being October and November. So I would caution against putting too much emphasis on the scorecard results until we really get another month of data in place, at which time we really feel that the year-to-date numbers will begin stabilizing. Now, with that said, we can compare our results to the first 2 months of FY21 to see if anything really stands out for us. Beginning with safety, as a reminder on our safety, we are now using lost time incident rate as our measure of performance. Currently, we have no lost time incidents, which is a really great way to start off the new year. Moving on to customer satisfaction, through the first wave of FY22, ratings from our customers have placed us in the second quartile for both residential and commercial customers satisfaction. And this represents a strong start to our FY22 when compared to our scores this time last year. Sheila Presley, our Chief Customer Officer, as Jay already mentioned, will discuss the results of this in greater detail later on in the meeting. Moving on to sanitary sewer overflows. Through November, we have had 5 SSOs compared to the 6 through November of 21. Moving on to nitrogen to the river, we released 59 tons of nitrogen into the river ending November, which is consistent with the 58 tons that we discharged in the first 2 months of FY21. Permit exceededness, we had 0 electric environmental permit exceededness for year to date. On our sale of 1,892 megawatts, 1,892 megawatts through November was almost the exact same as what we sold in FY21, the 1871 you see there. Our water and wastewater sales are up a bit, 8%, compared to this time last year, about 11 million gallons versus the 10 million gallons that you see noted. Our total system revenue, with the higher water wastewater sales, of course, that means that the overall revenue is up to 260 million versus the 253 million. On the fuel purchased power expenses, fuel purchase power and expenses will now be reported as an absolute number versus the dollars per megawatt. Through November FY22, fuel expenses came in at 92 million versus the FY to date 21, which was 57 million. Our capital spend for FY22 is similar to this time in FY21, 40.6 million versus 38 million respectively there. On the electric, water, and wastewater costs came in then at 56.8 million versus 51.2 million this time last year. O&M spend is now part of the pay for performance plan, with the goal of coming in between 95 and 100% of the budgeted dollars. Our debt is currently standing at 2.91 billion versus the goal of 2.73 billion. And on electric reliability, now how we track the grid reliability on our corporate scorecard changed this year. We now use SEMI-5, which is the percent of customers experiencing 5 or more momentary interruptions in a year. Our current performance of 0.28% is well below our year-end goal of 0.80%. This metric is measured as a 12-month rolling average. Unplanned water outages, this metric is highly variable from month to month because, given any particular water break, it can impact just a few dozen customers or potentially a few thousand customers. So for year-to-date FY22, we've had 553 customers impacted by unplanned water outages. On the water pressure, we continue to perform very well on water pressure. Customers experienced 1.4 minutes below the target pressure of 30 psi, compared against the October and November of FY21, which was right at 2 minutes. Now this concludes our monthly performance update, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'll turn it back to you, Chair Baker.
Thank you. I have a question. Jay, is the fact that our debt is above the fiscal goal something we should be focused on?
No, sir. I think this is a timing issue. Joe Orfano, are you on? You want to touch on that?
I can, Jay. Good morning, Chair Baker and Board. It's Joe Orfano. That debt amount is our target for the year. That represents scheduled principal payments that were made on October 1st of $92 million. And then there's some deficiencies. The shear shutdown payment was made by FPL in December. We intend to pay down all of that shear debt. It's approximately $75 million. And then when we complete the remediation at St. Johns River Power Park, we intend to pay down another $102 million. So we believe with both of those events occurring in this fiscal year, we will be at or right on that target balance.
Thank you. That makes sense. Other questions? If not, we'll go to David Emanuel for your diversity, equity, and inclusion report, please.
Thank you, Chair Baker, esteemed board members. We said back in March, April last year that we were going to build a program and we were going to do it brick by brick. And it is well underway, but I'm very excited to announce that we found a lead for our program. We had a pretty exhaustive search in I would say in our region, and we were lucky enough that one of our hometown folk in terms of JEA, our HRBP, Paul McFadden, who has been with us for years, let's say won that search. We are excited. Paul is a South Carolina native, Clemson grad. He moved to Jacksonville in 1995. He has had management experience with two Malcolm Baldrige award-winning organizations. That was Milliken and AT&T Universal Cards. He's had over 25 years of experience in human resources in a variety of roles, mostly in banking, but again, the last 4 years here with us. He is married. He's a father of two young men, and he loves spending time with family, friends, and we are excited to have Paul join us in this role. Paul has hit the ground running. We're not going to ask him to speak this time, but in the future, he will be the one that will probably be bringing you these reports. I'm excited about our results of the last 9 months. We have canvassed our community. We've spoken to a great number of our employees, and we feel very, very ready to build out our strategy. We have started naming and identifying folk that we would like to participate with us in our internal council. We'll also be looking for all of us and the board's help in naming an external counsel. And we hope to do that in the next 35 to 40 days. We feel that we've gathered a lot of information. We feel that we know the right approach, and we look forward through some of the results of our engagement surveys, but also our go forward engagement survey to make sure that our plan withstands and represents all of the good things that we want it to represent. We thought that if we put this out and we rushed it, we would miss some steps. But I think we've covered a lot of ground, and our numbers, while we don't want to stress them, are moving in a favorable way. And so it's exciting to see where we are. We still have a lot of work to put forth in terms of always being vigilant in listening and trying to bring about the best solution for all of JEA and all of Jacksonville. Chair Baker, that concludes my presentation. Love to entertain questions or thoughts.
Questions of David? Well, it looks like we're off to a great start, and congratulations to Paul and on JEA's naming him. That's quite a resume, and I think we'll be really happy with what comes forth. Let's move now to customer satisfaction update with Sheila Presley.
Morning, Chair Baker and Board of Directors. I'm happy to report that we are living our mission and improving lives, building community in Northeast Florida. It's what we do every day. So I'm going to share with you customer satisfaction results as measured by J.D. Power. Our scores improved dramatically over this last year, despite the fact that overall the utilities declined nationally. We were one of the highlights in the national study with improved scores. And the improvement is a result of concerted efforts to listen to our employees and customers with greater transparency in our decision making, and we are making more frequent, delivering more frequent and targeted messages to our customers. On this slide, you'll see our relative placement in all of the drivers of customer satisfaction, all with the exception of customer care, either in the first or second quartile, with communications, the highlight, in the first quartile. The customer care ranking is a result of the difficulty that our customers, whose preference it is to contact us by phone or in person, experienced over the last year. During one of the recent board meetings, I shared our difficulty in attracting talent to augment our customer service staff. Well, we've made progress there, significant progress, and we've learned that we were able to attract a talented group of customer service professionals, largely due to a desirable work environment that supports the ability to work in the office or at home. So we know that the demands of utility customers continues to evolve, and we must evolve to increase customer satisfaction overall to become the best service provider in the nation. Our ranking in the business client survey moved up from the 4th or bottom quartile to the 2nd. Wave 2 reflects a swing in fortunes, and as more businesses are indicating improvement in their financial status. Our score of 808 ties for the highest score in our 10-year participation in the survey, and even higher than the score that earned us first place among South mid-sized utilities several years ago. But we continue to improve. We remain focused on our work environment and the needs and preferences of our customers. This slide illustrates the relative movement of JEA, the top utility in the South mid-size segment, and the top utility in the survey overall. As other utilities improved between 2019 and 21, our score declined a bit, but as you can see, we've recovered nicely. I've included a few comments from our customers that convey the general thoughts that are shared in the survey. That it's a quality service, it never fails, the service is cheap, that this one person never had a major problem with JEA, and when they did, we fixed it right away. Another customer would like the bill to be lower, of course. We're doing everything possible to help our customers to manage their utility expense. And then finally, our customers want us to be a bit more transparent and environmentally friendly, and embrace green. We're working on all of those things. And we thank our customers for responding to the work that we're doing on their behalf, and hope to continue improvements through the remainder of the year to become the best utility in the nation.
Questions of Sheila? Great report. that's huge progress. We're not in the first quartile yet, but going from in business from fourth to second is amazing in a short period of time, and I congratulate you and really all of JEA for doing that. Let's now go to Laura Sheffis with the Integrated Resource Plan update.
Thank you, Chair Baker and members of the board. Good morning. My job today is to preview an event that we're very excited for, the launch of our Electric Integrated Resource Plan Stakeholder Committee. We've invited a diverse set of local stakeholders. Every single person has close ties to Northeast Florida. We'll meet with them 8 times formally across 2022. So this first meeting will be online only this Thursday at noon. And as the RSVPs stand now, I expect just about 20 of our group to join us and participate. So on Thursday, over the course of 90 minutes, we'll provide an overview of how JEA delivers electricity to our region. And we'll also preview some industry trends and drivers that will be fundamental to our experts' planning and development of scenarios that make up or feed into the IRP. Our most important message for the stakeholders will be this: we want and need their feedback. It will be very clear from remarks throughout Thursday's meeting and all throughout the year that their questions and their conversations are welcomed and strongly encouraged. Another key message for our stakeholders and really for all of our customers: JEA is your utility. This is your IRP planning process. So on the next slide, on the left, we've listed the organizations that our stakeholders represent. And just from this list, you can see the diversity of voices and perspectives. We really thought hard and worked hard to create a group that reflects our underserved population, environmental interests, local government, business, and economic development. We see such incredible value in having these voices come together to share ideas and help us set our compass on the right path to our best service over many years for Jacksonville. On the right, you can see the short agenda for Thursday's meeting. We've created several pieces of collateral to help our stakeholders: a brochure, slide decks, and a new video, all intended to facilitate conversation and give them the tools that they need to engage with us. And we'll put those materials up later this week on a new subpage on JEA.com. It's jea.com/IRP. Importantly, at each and every board meeting, we'll provide you an update about the IRP. It might focus on the stakeholders or on the substance of the work, or both. So now I'd like to ask Landon to show the video that I referenced that will debut on Thursday for the stakeholders.
We've come a long way since 1895, when the city first began generating electricity at a wood-fired plant on Main Street to light a dozen streetlights downtown. Now, we take it for granted that with the flip of a switch, we can light our homes, power our phones and computers, and stay cool in the summer and warm in the winter. But where does all that power come from? JEA is your community-owned municipal utility. We're the largest municipal in Florida and one of the largest in the nation. We use a diverse mix of power generation resources to keep the lights on for more than 1 million people across more than 900 square miles of Northeast Florida. 2/3 of that power is generated by natural gas. At Brandy Branch Generating Station, for example, natural gas powers 3 combustion turbines to make electricity. The plant also has a system to recover excess heat to produce steam. This creates even more electricity with no additional fuel costs and virtually no new emissions. The rest of our power generation comes from coal, petcoke, and renewables like solar. Soon, we'll add zero-emission nuclear power into the mix. Once we generate that power, we need to send it to your homes and businesses. 750 miles of high-voltage transmission lines carry high-voltage electricity from the generating stations to neighborhood substations. There, it's converted to low-voltage electricity that's delivered via 7,000 miles of distribution lines to schools, churches, homes, and businesses. We call this entire network, from generation to distribution, the electric grid. It's a complicated puzzle that requires a highly trained workforce, lots of maintenance, lots of capital, and lots of innovation. For example, we installed approximately 500,000 smart meters for all our customers over the last 5 years. With smart meters, customers can use online tools to better manage their electric bills. Smart meters have also reduced the number of on-site service calls JEA used to make by 550,000 last year. As a result of creating an electric integrated resource plan, JEA and community stakeholders will identify Northeast Florida's future energy needs. We'll combine that with our strong electric grid and commitment to environmental stewardship to power our city long into the future.
Thank you, Landon. And I want to say a special thanks to, it took many JEA staff members a lot of hours in December to pull that video together, and we're very grateful for the efforts. With that, I'm happy to take any questions, Chair Baker.
Questions of Laura?
Thank you.
I have a comment, not a question. You have assembled obviously a very broad and diverse group of people to be part of this advisory team. And it occurs to me that probably 90% of them haven't got a clue on what they're going to say to you about what we should be doing. And that's going to require for us to effectively use the time that they're donating. We've got to be very thoughtful about giving them enough information to where they can be productive. And I would really appreciate if at the future meetings, if you give us some real detail about whether this has been a successful effort to enlist these folks, or whether it was a great idea that was just too hard. I admire you for doing it. I know it's the right thing to do, but I also think it's going to be difficult, and I challenge you to make it work.
Yes, sir. Our very first meeting this week is designed to accommodate exactly what you pointed out. Many people go about their daily lives and they don't have an in-depth knowledge of the grid and the terms and the processes that we live in every day. So this very first meeting has got a really healthy component of Electricity 101, JEA 101, and IRP 101. And we're also making sure that we're building in a lot of time for their questions. And we will give ourselves a grade and bring that back to you in February.
And I want to add, thank you for reminding us of that, because this is harder on the front end to get the input. We were going to get input on this topic one way or the other. And if we made this just an engineering or math problem, then I don't think we would have had the right type of input. So our focus with this group is for them to help define some guiding principles and kind of boundaries that we work within, not so much to tell us what generation type we should use, but really to look at what we should expect from the community. And we've got the broad kind of cross-section, but you're right, this is, it's going to take strong facilitation and strong discussion and willingness for the group to share their thoughts too. So first round is introductory, and then 7 or 8 more meetings to go after that. And it's the reason that we will be updating you at each meeting too, so that you're kind of in the loop and know what's going on with where we are in this process. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all. Jay, you and Jody have an update on Vogel?
Yeah, and I think that I'm going to take most of this unless there's questions, and then we've got Jody and Joe Orfano and others that are on this. And I sort of already gave my report when I said there's not a whole lot of change since the last report. We were scheduled to go back to Vogel last week to meet on site, and decided, for the same reason that we decided to do this meeting more virtually, to not go to see the facilities on site. But we did meet with the MEAG folks virtually. At our last meeting, you may recall that General DeSalvo brought up a critical point that the last week of December, first week of January, we were expecting to see a letter from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that was supposed to come out really the first week of January. That letter is a requirement in order for the plant to become operational. Once that letter is issued, then that gives them the right guidance for them to be able to start loading fuel and start moving towards completion. But there's a lot of work packages that they need to complete in order to get that letter. The official reports from MEAG and from the other owners, Georgia Power, are indicating that date to get the letter has moved out 17 days. They are suggesting that the delay of 17 days is still within their risk margin of having Unit 3 online by September of this year and Unit 4 by October of next year. And that's what our disclosure statements say. Then we're not making any adjustments to our disclosure statements because we follow the owner's lead on that formal disclosure. But we do need to be sure that we're making good decisions. And this goes back to Mr. Mark Zimmerman asked the question earlier, how do we make the best decisions we can for fuel cost? Because the longer that Plant Vogel doesn't come online, there's 2 things that happen. One is increased cost of the construction, and 2 is the replacement electricity that we have to use. The base level cost of increasing the construction is about $8 million a month. But because we borrow that and we spread it out over 20 years, the impact to our customers is much smaller, although ongoing. Of each month will add about $40,000 or $50,000 per month to the cost. The bigger concern on the short term is that the difference in replacement fuel drives up the cost by a couple of $1 million a month. So that's a bigger impact in the short run for us, and we're trying to stay focused on that. What we've been doing is following the recommendations coming from the owners, and because the replacement power is so significant, we're changing the way we're planning for our fuel, and we're going to, on our planning efforts, stretch Unit 3 of this year to come online instead of September, which is what the statements say. We're looking at the end of this year, December, or as late as March of 23, and Unit 4 to be between December 23 and June of 24. The reason we're doing that is to provide a buffer and comfort for our replacement so that we can hedge more appropriately and manage our cost more appropriately. And we're basing this on the idea that the progress the co-owners are showing us doesn't seem to be on track towards a successful completion of the dates they suggest. And it's our job to be sure that we appropriately plan for that replacement fuel in the meantime. So at our February and March meetings, we will present a more up-to-date view of the cost impact and how that translates to cost to our customers. And we're using a starting point of April of 2020, when most of you were appointed to the board, to show you the changes in time from when you were appointed and what we expected till what we are now, and then we'll continue to update you on that. So this is not as much of a detailed report as we had planned on doing if we had been able to go on site, but we are concerned about the lack of progress on some of the work orders, the work product, the work packages, which really puts us back in the spot. And General DeSalvo, I think the way that you put it last time is that we felt better because of the way they described everything to us. And I think that was where we were last month, and things were progressing. But there has been little or no progression on the work packages since the last time we met. And with that concern, it means that we need to be sure that we're planning appropriately for our future. There's little that we can do contractually, so we're not studying anything on that front. What we're going to do is plan the best that we can to serve our customers the best that we can. So with that, I will turn it back over and try to answer any questions, or I'll pass questions to Jody and Joe. That's what I'll really do.
I mean, John, I have a question is, are we doing anything, or what is the progress of working with MEAG and Southern on trying to get any DOE grants or any type of assistance from the federal government? We had conversations with MEAG about that, and then Laura Shepis and her team and the group in DC have started some discussions. Not a lot of progress at this point. And then we have currently a scheduled trip that hopefully we'll be able to have some time with somebody in that area to help us with that. So we're continued discussions, not a lot of progress yet.
Bobby, thank you for bringing that up. It's very important, and we should make sure we're getting our congressmen involved, because they can help us, I think. Okay.
Hey, Chair Baker, Joe DeSalvo. Two quick comments. First, Jay, I think it's real prudent what you're doing, what JEA is doing as far as pushing back expected commercially operational declaration dates for Unit 3 and 4, because we're seeing just those delays continue because of labor shortages and a bunch of working off all the inspections, et cetera. So I think that's prudent. And then on the grant issue that Bobby Stein just brought up, that's a great point. From what I'm tracking through APPA is DOD does have some significant funding based on the Infrastructure Act that was passed, and then once the Build Back Better Act comes in, there'll be more grants from DOE. What I'm tracking is that they are getting organized and how they're going to process those grants, et cetera. The good news is there's a lot of money there. The bandwidth issues for DOE to process these grants, et cetera, and get the rules of engagement out for who's eligible, how that works. That's sort of what they're working with now, as I understand it. And from what I've read, maybe in 3 months or 4 months, they'll have some firm guidance on how that process works. We'll see if it's sooner or later, but that's sort of what I'm tracking for what it's worth.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I think that really helps broaden out the answer to the question, which is it's not just a matter of us working with DOE on a single project, but we've got a team of people looking at all of the options. We've got a grant writing team on retainer now. We have our internal group that is starting to look at what the language that comes out. And it's also, so you've got the representation on the council at APPA. We also have relationships with AWWA on the water and on the wastewater side, and are continue to look at all of those types of options too. So focus squarely on how does DOE help us with this project, But if we can find other funding to help with other things that we need to do, the cost savings will become similar across the organization. So all of those things are in play. So thank you. And what just to clarify, and we're not suggesting that the commercial operation date is moving. We're suggesting the planning for our internal purposes is that we don't anticipate that to actually happen, and so we need to be prepared in case it doesn't. So all of our official statements will still be match up with what MEAG and Georgia Power and Southern are saying.
Okay, other questions? All right, hearing none, we'll go to board and committee reports. First on the agenda is the CEO evaluation. And as you all recall, in accordance with our policy manual, our board policy manual, we conducted an annual CEO evaluation in November of 2021. The evaluation is based on the executive core competencies and measures of effectiveness outlined in our policy manual. The governance committee met November 8th and discussed the timeline for this, and we are on target. And they also had some proposed changes for next year's evaluation requirement. Late in November, November 22nd, David Emanuel, our Chief Human Resources Officer, and I met with Jay to give him the results of that evaluation and so he could understand the feedback from the board. Let me hit the high points of what you all said in your evaluations. Generally, the board is pleased with Jay's performance and the results to date. He's made an immediate and positive impact on JEA and the community, and without exception, everybody on the board appreciates Jay's efforts to reestablish pride in the workforce. We said that Jay excelled in the following areas: maintaining safety is a top priority and executing an effective risk mitigation plan, complying with the executive core competencies, key performance areas, and key performance indicators, providing advanced materials to the board in a timely manner, complying with all legal and fiduciary responsibilities, establishing a positive environment where diversity is embraced and the workforce is proud to be a member of JEA. I think the letters that Jay writes weekly are marvelous, and they certainly link us as a board and him as our CEO with the workforce. Jay maintains a candid dialogue with the board and is completely transparent on all issues associated with JEA. The 301 issue is, the latest, and I think he did a marvelous job. He's keeping JEA on the right strategic plan and path in accordance with our strategic plan and maintaining compliance with respect to the JEA charter. The only negative was really a question of what was on the form, and the form asked, where were we on succession for Jay? And of course, not very far would be the answer, because he had just come on and our job was to hire him last year. But I think it was a great reminder that we need to get on with that and move forward with succession. And that's what we'll do next year. So that's, I cannot describe that as a negative mark because it wasn't appropriate for us to be choosing a successor before we had a CEO. So if there are any questions of that or anything else you would like to add to that, this is the time to do it. And I know Jay would like to hear it if you have any. Okay. The next agenda item is the nominating committee. I think we have moved that meeting to, when is it? Is it
February 11th.
yet? Is it February 11th?
Yes.
And the three nominating committee members are Bobby Stein, Marty Lanahan, and myself. You know, it's hard to, it's not hard, it's inappropriate for us to talk outside of meetings because of the sunshine law. And so I would encourage you as board members to come to that meeting if you have a strong feeling about the future leadership of JEA, who should be on it, and where we go. I mean, we've got Bobby as vice chairman and Marty next in line. But we all know that came together because we were all new, and it was very, very important to have their experience in leadership as having been on JEA before. So I encourage all the members to come to the nominating committee if you've got things you want to bring up, because that's where we will nominate the slate of officers. Obviously, we also will have to approve it at the board meeting that follows. So that's a second bite at the apple if you're unable to come. I don't think we have any further items, new business or old business, unless you all do.
I'm not sure I understand.
There is no chairman's report. Our next board meeting is February 22nd. Is there any open items? This is a time when we can talk amongst ourselves. Is there anything that's weighing on anybody's minds about what's going on with JEA that you would like to bring up at this point? Okay. Again, February 22nd is our next board meeting. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully we'll be together. Jay, do you have something you want to say?
You and I will have the discussion with the media after this, and we're going to try to we'll get a timeout, but maybe about 10 minutes. We'll do that. So more to come on that.
Should I just stay on?
Yeah, do stay on for just a minute, and then I think there's a different sign on, but we'll give you that, and just to stay on, and we'll work through that whenever we don't need 120 people on it. So,
right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, staff.
Thank you, John.
Thank you,
John. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
This meeting's adjourned.
All right. Good job. So what do we need